Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my winter to be read books, my TBR, and I'm also going to be talking about my reading goals for the year. I think in my last video I briefly touched on what I was thinking for my reading goals, but I want to go over them in this video and then let you know some of the books that I'm planning to help me reach them. So for my reading goals this year, I want to read 50%. I want 50% or less of my reading to be books written by authors from the US. I'm really trying to diversify my reading, and I think that would be a good goal for me since I read a little bit over 50% last year. So I think that will be a good goal, and to help me achieve that, I want to read 12 books from new countries that I haven't read from before this year, which is about one book a month, which I think is pretty easily achievable for me. So those two kind of go hand in hand, and then the other one that I want to achieve is having 50% or more of my reading be books published before 2010. This is because I've noticed that a lot of the books that I read are published in the last 5 years or so, and even though I really do enjoy a lot of them, there are also a lot that I feel like I'm just pulled in by the intrigue of them, and I don't end up enjoying them as much as I have enjoyed reading some more classics and some books that have kind of stood the test of time recently. So those are my main reading goals, and I have one more goal that is just a book that I want to finish this year. So that is going to start me off on my winter TBR list. I have only 6 books here, which is not that many, but I think you will see why when I show you this first book that I want to read. I have already started it, and this book is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. The reason that I'm reading this book, this huge book, first of all, I want to note that I haven't read a book that's 500 pages or longer in the past 2 years. This book is like 1,200 pages. That's including the notes and index and everything. It's over 1,200 pages. I got this book for my partner for Christmas, and he has really been wanting to read it, and we've been wanting to read a book together as like a buddy read, but we have very different tastes in books. But we both, were kind of interested in reading this, and I was like, why not? Let's read this book together. Let's read this massive, massive book together. So I'm actually not, this is his copy that I got him. I am not reading the paperback because it's huge. I'm reading it on my Kindle. But I finished part 1, volume 1 today, and I'm honestly really enjoying it. There are definitely some things that I don't like about it. There are some dry parts, especially the war portions. But honestly, it's very dramatic. It's very gossipy in some ways, which was surprising to me, and it's way easier to read than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be, since it was written in the 1800s, that it would be, more flowery and just hard to read, but it's not. And this is the 2007 translation by Richard Pevere and Larissa Volokonsky. So if you're curious which version I'm reading, that's the one. And yeah, so that is also one of my final goal this year is to read this book, which I will do because I'm already 1/4 of the way through. So I'm pretty proud of that. So reading this book is like reading 4 other books. So I do feel pretty good about that. My next book I'll only touch on briefly because I did talk about it a little bit in my last video that I already started, is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel García Márquez. I'm about 1/3 of the way through this book, but I put it on pause because I started reading War and Peace, and then I started reading a book for my book club that I'm in. So I've been focusing on reading those, but I am really enjoying this book, and I do want to finish it. I hope that by the time I get back to it, I don't forget what was going on too much, but that's one of the other ones that I definitely want to read this winter. My next one is my book club book that I'm reading, and that is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I have heard so many great things about this book. I did read A Man Called Uva by this author a while ago, and I did like it. It wasn't like my favorite book or anything, but my book club is reading this, and the author is from Sweden, so this will help me also toward my challenge. All three of these books will help me toward my goal of reading 12 books from new countries this year. And I'm halfway through this so far, and I'm finding the writing to be a little bit cliched and just a little bit too much at some points. It's just a little too, sentimental and cliched, but I am really enjoying the story. It's about a very small rural town where really the only thing that they have there is their junior hockey team, and it's about the team trying to win the championship so they can advance and get this hockey school to be built in their town, so that way the town can have more revenue and more of a reason for people to come there, because it's pretty economically depressed. It's told from the point of view of a lot of different characters who are or it discusses many different characters who are either on the team or involved in some way or affected by the team. And it is a lot darker than I anticipated. Also, there is a pretty violent sexual assault scene in the story, not to give any spoilers, but just for anyone who might be interested in reading it, it's an important thing to be aware of before you read this book for sure. But the story is really interesting. I do like the book, but I don't know if this author's writing is my favorite so far. But that's the third book that I'm currently reading right now. So I have a lot on my plate, but I'm hoping to finish this one soon and then really dig more into War and Peace. We're reading it one volume at a time and like discussing at the end of each volume. So we'll see how quickly I get through part 2, but that's what I'm reading right now. The other 3 books are kind of a pivot from the first 3 that I showed you, and these are all nonfiction. So the first one is Winter World, and this is by Bernd Heinrich. It is basically just all different, it's a nature writing book about all different animals and how they survive through the winter. And I got this from my dad for Christmas or his birthday or something last year, and he really liked it. So and I was interested in it too, so I'm gonna read it now. But I love learning about nature and learning about animals, and I always want to read more science and nature writing, and I never really get to it. So even though it's not like a specific goal of mine, it's definitely something I want to read this winter, and obviously it's right on theme, so planning to read that. The next 2 books are books that my uncle actually got me for Christmas. I think he'll be watching this video, so thanks Uncle Jack for buying these books for me. And they are A Woman in the Polar Night by Christiane Ritter. I think this was on my list last year. The cover is so cool. This was on my list last year that I wanted to read, and it's the subtitle is The Classic Memoir of a Year in the Arctic Wilderness. I love memoirs. I love stories about adventures in nature, and I am really, really excited to read this. The author is Austrian, so that will also go toward my goal. And she wrote this in the 1930s after she was living in the Arctic. So I'm super excited to read this. I don't know anyone who's read it. I haven't heard anything about it, but it's just right up my alley in terms of the types of books that I'm interested in. And obviously it's very cold in the Arctic, so it's perfect for winter. And then the other book that he got me is an essay collection by Jon Krakauer called Classic Krakauer. Jon Krakauer is one of my favorite authors. He wrote my favorite book, Into the Wild, and this is just a collection of his essays. Some of it's wilderness and adventure nature writing. Some of it's more investigative journalism and some other topics. It's just an assortment of his essays that have been published in different magazines and things like that. But I'm excited to read it, and I think it will be a nice way to break up my other reading. Like I can just read one of these essays and for a break from my other novels that I'm reading. So that's my list. That's my winter TBR. I'm sure I will read more than that, but I don't want to give myself like 15 books and then have to stick to that list. So these are just the ones that I'm most excited to read this winter and that I really want to get to. If there's any that you really want to read this winter, or if you've read any of these books, let me know what your thoughts are. And if you have any reading goals for the year, I'd love to hear about them. So thanks for watching again, and I'll see you next time.